It's important as a real estate developer, real estate investor, to make sure that you have the right team members working alongside of you. You're always going to need an attorney. You're always going to need a financial professional, a CPA or bookkeeper. So you want to make sure that you choose individuals who aren't just general practitioners, but that you choose individuals who specialize in your chosen field to work in. Welcome to the Property Power Play. My name is Kito J Johnson and I am your host for the conversation. And right here we empower you with the tools necessary to play the game of real estate and win. I'm here with a friend and brother, Mr. Trey Mathis. I want to thank you so much, Trey, for being here. Appreciate you so much.
No worries, no got to come through for you.
So tell us who you are. Who is Trey Mathis?
I started in corporate America. I worked for a corporate job. You know, I met my wife at the corporate job and we started a family. It's one of those situations to where when you're in corporate America and you start taking a step back and you want to think about what am I doing with my life? Where am I going financially? It got to a crossroads where real estate called me and I love it. I fell in love with the versatility of it, what it can do for you, what it can do for your kids.
You said real estate called you. Right. Tell me about your journey into the real estate investing. How'd you get here?
Absolutely. You know, the taxes, I was realizing that my wife and I are documenting income. The gross was pretty good, but we weren't bringing home a lot of that. And I ran across a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everyone's read it. Yeah. And it changed my life in the sense of it gave me a way to mitigate that tax burden. And so when I read the book, I sat down with my parents, who actually are real estate investors as well. And from there, you know, they helped me get my first property. I was able to leverage my 401k to help with the down payment for said property. By that time, I was already in a single family house through a FHA loan. You know, went in, approved, picked the house out, voila. When I bought my first house, it was a pretty simple process and relatively easy. A couple of documents, a pre-approval letter. Say, hey, Mr. Mathis, if you want to stretch a little bit, we can bump it up for you. This is pre-Dodd-Frank, so it was easy. Unfortunately, 08 happened. The crash occurred. Yeah. A lot of different regulations came in. Wasn't as nearly as loose as it was pre-08.
One of those regulations was the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. That legislation was passed by Congress in response to financial industry behavior that led to the financial crisis of 2007-2008. It sought to make the U.S. financial system safer for consumers and taxpayers. Leading up to 2007, lax regulations led to extremely risky lending practices, which caused a housing sector bubble that ultimately burst and drove the global crisis, the need for public bailouts of financial institutions, and the recession. Communities of color were hit the hardest.
Unfortunately, 08 happened. The crash occurred. Everybody had to walk a straight line, so to speak.
Most times when a person considers real estate investing or path to entrepreneurship, the first thing they want to do is quit their job. I got to get in, whether it's wholesaling or whatever strategy, they make that first $10,000. They put in their 2-week notice, right? And I can't tell you the number of times I've challenged a person to say, hold up, slow down, don't do that just yet. That might not be the best next step. Do you regret, or I don't know if that's the right way to ask the question, but how do you feel about making the decision to stay on your corporate job while you build this portfolio?
I absolutely intend to leave my corporate job after I hit my goal. I have not hit my goal yet. And ironically, my goal, I reserve the right to change my goal.
Yes.
And I tell people all the time, my monthly rental income hit differently than the W-2 income.
Yes.
You know, it hits a whole lot different. Yeah. So I don't need as much rental income, as I do for my W-2, because Uncle Sam ain't hitting that the same. Sit down with a CPA or somebody in that space so you can truly understand the value. Yeah. Whether it's a cost segregation study or whether it's something so simple as just the repairs that goes into a property.
It's important as a real estate developer, real estate investor, to make sure that you have the right team members working alongside of you. You're always going to need an attorney. You're always going to need a financial professional, a CPA or bookkeeper. So you want to make sure that you choose individuals who aren't just general practitioners, but that you choose individuals who specialize in your chosen field to work in. So for me, my attorney is an individual that only works with real estate professionals, real estate developers, real estate investors. In fact, my attorney is also an investor himself. So he understands the language. He knows when I bring a deal to him what I'm looking to do or what I'm looking to get accomplished. And it's the same thing with a CPA or a bookkeeper. Make sure that the professionals on your team specialize in the same areas of the business that you specialize in.
I stress to people, there's nothing wrong with leaving your job, but just make sure you're prepared. Make sure you have the reserves. Make sure you eliminate as much debt as you possibly can. I'm a married man. My wife has expenses. So I have to kind of, again,
She's shopping right
exactly, right now as we speak.
So let's talk about, we're talking about building a single family rental portfolio. And there's a strategy that's often referred to as Brrrr, and I know you're the Brrrr guy. Even though I've said multiple times, like, I don't call it Brrrr. I call it Kito's PR 5-step system. Right, we're talking about the same thing. But let's break that down. What does Brrrr mean?
The B in Brrrr is buying the property. And make no mistake about it, that's an important B. You win when you buy right.
Yeah.
Don't overpay for the property.
Yeah.
And I stress that to a lot of people when it comes to Brrrr, because you're looking to add value, whether it's forcing depreciation through updating the property,
Yeah.
or whether you're looking to, to add that wall in that closet, and with the legal easement, add another bedroom. The second, letter R is you're gonna rehab that property. With the end in mind, you wanna rehab that property to your comps. No need to get overly sexy. You don't have to get quartz. Don't have to get hardwood floors.
Yeah.
Look at your comps and work to the comps when it comes to rehabbing. Third, critical, rent. They're the good tenant. Make sure they qualify income. Make sure they have a good, history. Make sure they gonna take care of your property. Once you get that tenant in now, you're gonna go to a lender that hopefully you've already lined up. You're gonna refinance that property. Hopefully if you hit a home run, you're pulling your money out. And then the beauty of the last R, you're gonna repeat that process.
Yeah.
And that's Brrrr.
What then would you say is the most efficient way for someone to jump into this strategy?
I think home ownership is the best way to get into it. I think it's organic. I think it's gonna teach you a lot about real estate hands-on. You're gonna get very familiar with, a lot of things that I think will take out a lot of the investors early on. You're gonna understand the cost of certain things. You're gonna understand how to maintain the property. You're gonna understand the process of buying the property.
I want to go back to your first deal, right? And I want you to kind of elaborate a bit more on it. As you threw out some numbers that, I was able to do 5-6 years ago in Atlanta, but can't do it anymore, right?
This particular property, it was for $15,000. This was on market, mind you. It had been sitting on market for a while. Had driven by the house, saw the sign up there forever in the day, found the stock. And at the time, her listing was expiring, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And I asked her, I said, well, how much are you, she owned the house outright. She inherited it.
Yeah.
She really didn't want to continue to live there.
Yeah.
She just needed to get away with some cash to get on to her. I think she was moving to Missouri somewhere. I talked to her for a while. I sat down. I'm heavy into gardening, and I complimented her on some flowers in her front yard. And I think that kind of got me in the doorway with her. And she gave me that house for $15,000.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I think the house maybe was valued at maybe $30,000. And so she gave me a good deal for it.
Yeah.
But it needed a lot of work. And it was obvious that she could not do it herself. I went to my 401k. The most you can take out on your 401k is $50,000. I took out enough to purchase property. I also took out enough for the materials. With the labor, all me and the family.
Sweat equity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Weekends, like I said, I literally brought them with barbecuing. I can get on the grill and do a little something. And so literally got them up there, cooked for them on the weekends, and we made it happen. When I first rented that property, I was rented for $900. This is many moons ago. There's a company called Brian & Wilson. They make cigarettes. They gladly paid that money. They paid me in advance, 6 months. Yeah. And it was just a thing. It was. I was blessed. Let me say that. Yeah. It wasn't one of those nightmare deals that you hear about.
Yeah. If I had somebody willing to walk away from a big city like Atlanta, right? And be willing to trust me and walk away from Atlanta and go to a Macon and give me 3 years, in 2.5, 3 years, I could retire that person. It's easy to do, in my opinion. What advantages or disadvantages do you see in your market?
Typically, if you're dealing with tertiary market, you're there for a reason. You know that market. That's the difference. People are very territorial. And so when I talk to them and I know I know their neighborhood, I know what happened in Macon years ago. It's easy for me to maneuver in their market, and you're gonna save a lot of money on the labor. Because unfortunately, I'm pretty sure you may deal with a lot of general contractors up here that they go charge general contractor prices with their overhead. I don't deal with that too tough in Macon.
What advice would you give someone watching that may be brand new?
Get your education up. You got to know what you're getting yourself into, and do an assessment of what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Do you have family? What can they do for you? What do you bring to the table? Do you have good credit?
When you determine what you have, then you're gonna staff or bring people around you that have what you don't.
Absolutely.
Right? That's the whole game of leverage,
That's
right?
the key. Got to.
Trey, I've loved this conversation. I've enjoyed meeting you, and it's just something about your heart and your spirit that draws me to you every time. I thank God for connecting us together, and I appreciate everything that you are to me and our community.
Brother, thank you so much. Trust me, the feeling's definitely mutual.
You have been listening to the Property Power Play. I'm your host, Kito J Johnson, and right here we give you the tools necessary to play the game of real estate and win. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode.
The Convo, the 2-time 2023 Telly Award-winning network, and your home for conversations around Black wealth. Available on all platforms.